6, 3, 2, 1. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. How you doing, folks? What's up? Good afternoon to everybody. Sorry. I got both of them today. I got the real Coke Zero and the fake Coke Zero. I see a couple of people are already starting to sprinkle in here bright and early. So good afternoon. I just want to get this thing kind of rocking and rolling here. As you all probably know, I'm Rod Duff here with producer Barbie. And before we dive into today's conversation, I want to pause just briefly to acknowledge the ecosystem, of course, that makes these conversations like this possible. The Mangum City Library sitting right here. Thank you for standing for access, education, and real civic literacy in a time when confusion travels faster than the truth. To the Leaf Lab, thank you for providing or proving, I should say, that education doesn't have to be theoretical to be powerful. It can be practical, rigorous, directly connected to the real world, okay? And to our partners, the Regeneration School Project and Voices at the Table, thank you for helping us build spaces where responsibility, discernment, and leadership are taught early and practiced often. Because today's conversation isn't about something, it is about something that we all live inside of, but very few of us truly understand it. Security, okay? Not passwords, not software, not compliance checklists, but people. Most organizations believe they have a cybersecurity problem, okay? What they actually have is a human blind spot. And that blind spot is being exploited right now. AI, by deepfakes, by voice cloning, by financial impersonation, and what can only be described as the perfect lie. Today's guest doesn't talk about this from theory. He talks about it from decades of investigation, exposure, and consequence. Our guest is Robert Siciliano, creator of the Strategic Human Firewall, veteran investigator, and one of the clearest voices in the world when it comes to understanding just how cybercrime actually works. Robert doesn't rely on fear. He doesn't do compliance theater. We love that. And he doesn't believe awareness alone changes behavior. Make sense? Instead, he focuses on security appreciation, on rewiring how people think, detect, and respond in real time. Because the truth is this: firewalls don't get tricked. Software doesn't panic. People do. And in an era of generative AI, synthetic identities, and impersonation at scale, we're talking huge liabilities. The human being is no longer the weak link. They're either the last line of defense or the first point of failure. Today, we're going to talk about what it means for businesses, financial institutions, public servants, families, and anyone who still believes this won't happen to us. This is not a lecture, never is. This is a conversation. So I just want to say, Robert, my new best friend and security buddy, you got what is it? Something vest. What's the word I'm thinking of?
Oh, I've got a bullet.
Kevlar. Oh, there it is. You're
five.
that Kevlar vest across them. Why do you have 5 of them? Wait a minute. Hold on. This is a whole nother thing. Is this part of your opening journey that brought you here?
So I have one for each of my family members.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
I have one for the dog too.
Yeah,
well, so
we can talk about it.
My gig is personal protection. Personal protection begins with violence prevention. It's preventing physical, right? And I've been speaking on personal protection for as much as 40 years, 30 years professionally. And I've always recognized risk even as a child. And as I grew older, my small business early in the mid 90s was, and still is, protecting real estate agents from violence. Realtors in the US are murdered. It's just a crazy profession they're in.
It's funny. You only hear about that every once in a while, but then you hear this little crack that comes in and out of the cycle, the news cycle, about a realtor being raped or murdered or both. I mean, they come out on those crime things every once in a while, but it's actually a pretty good sized statistic, isn't it?
Well, so I think the likelihood of it happening is kind of slim to none. Like anything else, really. When it comes to all security issues, it's kind of slim to none. Like, I don't believe that thousands of agents are at risk every day. Like,
that's true. That's true.
It happens. And when it does happen, it's awful. It's tragic. And so like anything else, like putting a seatbelt on, you put a seatbelt on, even though there's like thousands and tens of thousands of people killed in automobile vehicle accidents every year, we don't worry about that. We just put the seatbelt on and we're good. Like, most of what I talk about is don't worry about it. Just do these basic things and you should be good.
Oh, that was really bad timing there. By the way, we have over 200 people already on. That's really quick. I had a suspicion this might be an active show because of the topic. We're talking about the whole encumbrance of safety. Obviously, there's the physical safety, and there's all the other things that come along with that. By the way, as I mentioned before, I love your background, and from our talking backstage, I understand why the ocean influence is in that background. Beautiful area you live in there in Boston, right?
Yeah, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. It's about 10 degrees here, and
oh, ouch.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a winter. And just so everybody knows, I have never, ever parked a car in Harvard Yard, ever.
Oh, that was well placed, my friend. You don't probably know this, although you said you've seen the show, but I have 2 fixations. One is names. And by the way, did I say your name correct, Siciliano?
It's perfect, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've got some Italian in my history, but which I love the Italian culture and everything else. But it's names and it's accents. And so I was also excited about this show because of that. And the reason I'm excited about those things is because my name's Rod Duff, blah. And then my accent is, I grew up in the military, a military family. So it really don't have one. It's just like this dumb American kind of ass, so accents. So anytime you want to make the point you just made, please do it throughout. One of my best friend lives he moved now up to Connecticut, but he's from Boston, Mass. And oh God, I love that. I love it. Do it again. One more time.
Look, my accent comes out all the time. My girls, I got a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old. They make fun of me. My kids make fun of my accent. Yeah.
That's an awesome accent then. We got well over 300 people on already. They're coming in pretty quick. So we were talking about, as far as your overall, your mission on this earth has been about the recognition and then building into your career and your whole life journey at this point is security. And that's security of all facets. We talked about I was stumbling over the word Kevlar, and you even said that your family is completely protected. So the beauty of the reason I bring that up is obviously protection is important, and the dedication of that starts really seeing levels when we have conversations like this, because we're knowing beyond just cyber. It's about protection overall, isn't it?
You know, look at, I've been doing what I do for, like I said, like 40 years. And I've known forever that, and this is true, like 70% of all, I'm sorry, 98% of all the people that you will ever meet in the course of your life, 98% are generally like just good people, you know, like they have good intentions,
Absolutely.
you know, that they don't mean to do harm, that 97 to 98% are worthy of your trust. Okay. And about 3 to as much as 6%, they say about 3% of women and 6% of men, depending on, are not worthy of your trust. Like 3 to 6. And the medical community calls them antisocial personality disorders. Okay. And they are the sociopaths and the psychopaths that live amongst us. Okay. These are the bad actors that come out of their mama just bad. So 3 to 6%. Okay. That said, these are the people that don't have any sympathy, empathy, guilt, remorse. Like they literally have no shame. Okay. And they're the bad actors that make a lot of noise. They're the ones that we need to be aware of, and that we need to, you know, essentially make ourselves a tougher target.
True.
So when they do
True.
come calling, we know what to do.
Very true. And the thing about those statistics is the way you framed it, because 300 million people well, there's probably more than that, 330 or so. But anyway, out of a million people, which isn't very difficult if you're not living in a rural area, especially, you're talking about people you're crossing paths with potentially on a daily or weekly or whatever basis of 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And if you're at that wrong moment, then obviously security is highly needed.
Yeah. Just do a Google search right now on how many registered sex offenders are there.
Oh, it's crazy. I've done that before, and it blows your mind, because like in a little town, excuse me, like I moved here to Mangum, Oklahoma, which is a rural town, right? And I did that on purpose for a reason. We don't have to get into all that. But I came from, dang, I'm sorry. I got something caught right there and I can't get rid of it.
Right.
But it's, I moved from Chicago and western suburbs. Before that, I was in California, and I've done that a couple of times just because the conversation came up. And literally streets from you, maybe even only houses from you, dozens and in even more hundreds of people that you're about to describe.
Yeah. And so I don't like provide these stats so that people worry, because that's useless. I provide these stats because predators are just natural and normal. Normal doesn't necessarily mean good. It just means that's just the way it is. So like when I was,
good point.
When I was 12, my dad let my little brother and I get on the train and head into downtown Boston, because back then you could just do that, you know? And when we got off the train, you know, there were 5 kids waiting up on the platform for me and my brother, basically, and they mugged us. They beat us up and they took our money. I was not prepared for that, you know? And my dad, when I go home all beaten and bloodied, he's like, all right, you know, and he explained to me that today, those boys, they were the wolves and the predators. There always has been, there is, and there always will be. And you and your brother, well, you're the rabbits today. Okay. And he sat us down and he made us watch the Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Right. And he explained the lions, well, they're natural predators, and the gazelle, well, they're natural prey. And it always has and always will be like that. Then you need to recognize risk. You need to understand that sometimes you're going to be targeted. Sometimes you're going to be the rabbit. And so when that happens, you need to know what to do. So he taught us, and we understood self-defense and personal protection. And about a year after that, okay, I'm 13 now, okay, and this is like, I'm 57, so this is like 45
At
years.
that 13, at that conversation?
I was 12 at that first conversation.
Your dad's kick ass, man. That was a great way to handle that.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that today. I don't want to get off subject, but I'm just saying that was a great way to handle
Well,
that.
my dad was an Italian kid from the streets of Boston, so he had some things.
There you go.
You know.
There you go.
Yeah. And so about a year later, I'm 13.
Dude, we have almost 700 people on here now.
Hey,
Sorry,
everybody.
go ahead. Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So now here I am. I'm 13 years old, and now I'm at summer camp, right? My dad sent us to summer camp while him and my mom worked, 40, 50 hours a week. And
Right.
I met a girl. I'm 13 years old. I met a girl, and we like each other. She's my first crush, and we would sit together on the bus on the way home. We'd hold hands and stuff. And then one day I get off the bus, and with her, we get off at her stop, and she was sitting on her front stairs. And she is kind of looking all solemn and stuff, and I don't know why. Like, I just, hey, is everything okay? And she says to me, I'll never forget it. She says, I think you should know that my mother's boyfriend assaulted me. And I was like, okay, and I didn't know what to say or what to do. And shortly afterwards, I go home and I say to my father, Dad, what is rape? Because I had no idea what she was talking about. We didn't talk about sex as kids back then. 13-year-olds didn't know what they know today. And so my dad at 13 years old explains to me, sexual assault and the birds and the bees in the same conversation. So I had
13.
13. Yeah.
Big arrival right there. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had a very different understanding of the world around me than most of the kids my age. And so from that point on, I wanted to understand what that meant. And so sociopaths, psychopaths, hardcore narcissists, they're the worst. And I wanted to understand how they operate. So that became a focus for me. And so back in the day, like I started to get engaged in professions revolving around personal protection as a teen. And by my early 20s, I was teaching real estate agents personal protection.
You brought that up earlier. Yeah. It's that is a mission that has built within itself not only girth but deep depth, right? I mean, that is a from a very personal, and then we always talk about on the show, building yourself from the inside out. That's not what I'm talking about here, really. But I am saying that's coming from the inside. It's like my producer Barbie tells me, I built a machinery business over 30 years. Okay, great, awesome. But she said you did that out of ego, and then I started this about a year and a half ago, and she said you're doing this out of love. You started your mission. Whatever that ignition point was, you started your mission out of love, didn't you?
I still do that. Don't get me started, man.
No, I mean started it. I mean, and it's been growing ever since.
That's how I started it, and that's how I still perform it, because I care about each and every person in my audience. When I'm speaking to a live audience, like, I don't know that there's ever been a time that I didn't get up and my voice cracked, because it's an important topic that everybody doesn't quite understand and that they need to know. I talk to each of my audience members the same way I talk to my girls, and I've been teaching my girls about good touches and bad touches since they were like 3 and 4 and 5 years old, and then personal protection and assault prevention since they were little, and I speak to my audience the exact same way. Like I specialize in what I call uncomfortable conversations that we don't generally have with our loved ones and our families. I have them with my audiences. Most people don't talk to their young, 18-year-old who's going off to college about sexual assault, because they don't even know where to begin with that conversation. But it's a conversation that you have to have, because as many as 1 out of 4 of them will be attacked at some point. Like, that's a reality. End up in a fraternity party at 2:00 in the morning. You've had too much to drink, too many gummies, and what happens? You don't have control over your body. And these are conversations that you have to have, not because like you want to put the fear in them. No, because you want to empower them, because you want to make them understand and recognize risk and what they're capable of, so that they can ward off, an attack in the physical
and
world.
be aware of it. So you talked about the gazelle, what your dad taught you about the gazelle, the lion. Well, one thing about the gazelle is they have a heightened instinct or knowledge of the world around them, which evens those numbers out a little bit. What you're saying right now is we talk so much about what you're talking about right now and empowering teens through. I mentioned during the monologue, voices at the table, and then we have a regeneration school project. So what you're talking about right now is such I guarantee to this audience. For instance, read what Jim Carrey says here to you. Out loud, please.
Me?
Yes, yes. You have a little work to do here, brother.
Great live show. This is such an important topic. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, agreed. You know, like it is. Like this is like, Jim, this is, in my opinion, the most important topic that there is. Like when I go to a conference and I'm one of like 30 speakers and I've got 10 people in my room, I'm like, this is literally the most important topic at this entire event. Why isn't it a pack from the beginning to the end? And I tell every single person in the room, like, this is the type of information that protects you from harm. What is more important than that as far as I'm concerned? I mean, okay, so there's another conference down the hall that teaches you how to make money. Great, that's important too. But these are the topics that we don't want to talk about because we don't want to think or believe that these things can happen to us. And the reality of it is, like I said, the chance of it happening is kind of slim, but there's enough of a chance that, don't you think it's important to know at some point in your life that this is something you should do? Like exercise, incorporate into your strategy of life. Like at the base of the triangle, at Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, at the base of that triangle are our physiological needs. Consuming fluids, getting a good night's rest, eating good foods, like sustenance, right? Right above that, safety, security, stability, structure, and protection, right above that, okay? Like you need that in order to function in life, to achieve your love and belongingness needs, self-actualization needs, all that stuff. We in this country, we just take it all for granted. Oh, it can't happen to me. Like those things don't happen around here. Why would they choose me? Why would they target me? We choose to function in denial, which is so ridiculous to me. I understand why people do that, and I can explain that. But as a result of that, we do nothing. And we make it really easy for the bad guy, whether in the physical world, you know, attacking our physical being, or in the virtual world, stealing our identities, our credit cards, our bank accounts. Like we make it so easy. Yeah. And when people actually experience the sociopath and the psychopath in their lives, when something bad happens, they're like, how did that happen? Like, how did that possibly happen to me? Because no one ever actually sat them down and said, this is how it works, and this is how you prevent it.
Yeah, and we live in that. I was just holding up blinders there, and we kind of live in that blinders world. And by the way, there's a lot of interest here, surprisingly, and not surprisingly enough, but this has been a very quick accumulation of almost 1,000 people sitting here. You talked about your audiences, and as you were talking about them, the numbers were rising. So I really appreciate you being here. And what's really funny, not funny, whatever it is you and I talked about different dates over a period of time, and we've been talking about that for a little bit of time now. And it's just interesting with your last statement, where you landed in our current arc. And I'm not advertising us, I'm just saying that right now it's about health. And you just talked about, you know, you need your sleep, you need your water, you need your food, you need your muscle tone, and you need these other things. You just added into right now what we're talking about, which is those sort of things. And we're ending with food next week. So I didn't plan on this, but it's ironic how you fell right into exactly what we're talking about today. Let's get into exactly what you were talking about too. And because Jim, he's the guy that just said about the great show, and he followed up right away with a question. How you want to take some of these questions now? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
I'll read them. I'll read them. How can small business afford to implement the strategic human firewall effectively? I think that's pretty smart.
Let me, I think it's important to define, you know, the strategic human firewall, what it is, what it does, and then how to implement it, you know, follows, right? So it's really simple. And when I say simple, like I've been doing this now for 30 plus years. So this methodology has taken some time to develop, right? But it's set so that like anybody can become a strategic human firewall in their own personal lives, and anybody can teach how to become a strategic human firewall in their professional lives if they have the right mindset. So essentially, the strategic human firewall is, and I don't mean to get technical here or anything, it's like an operational output of human risk management, okay?
Okay.
It overcomes what we call the human blind spot, which we should talk about, by replacing instinctive action bias with like a governance mindset. Essentially, what the strategic human firewall really is, it's a mindset that blocks deception. Okay. The bad actors, the sociopaths and psychopaths, their role and motivation is to convince you that they are worthy of your trust. And so your job is to block that deception, to recognize that deception. It's a proactive governance, a mindset that turns employees or humans in general, right, everyday citizens, from passive targets into an active detection layer. It's the shift from I trust what I see all the time to I verify everything. And in order to become a strategic human firewall, we've got to like overcome certain human blind spots. And so these blind spots are really what makes it very difficult for us to recognize risk. So what this means is like the human blind spot itself, okay? And I will answer this question. The human blind spot is the psychological instinct to trust what is familiar to us. We trust by default. I see it as a cognitive gap where biological trust overrides digital suspicion, leaving the door wide open for all forms of fraud, including AI-enhanced deception.
That aligns so well. That is absolutely makes sense, because I mean, all the studies that you see where the mind makes up things that it's familiar with, so it fills in, you know, like when you see somebody's face or you see a picture or something, it fills things in. You're writing right off of that same concept there. I did want to line up here with Ichel. What's the first warning sign that a deep fake scam is happening? You were just talking about the blind spots. You did say we need to get into that. Why don't we pull that statement that you made, and I want to hear about what does that blind spot look like, coupled with Ichel's comment here, or question here.
Happy to, Ichel. So think of it like this, right? Human beings are what is considered an interdependent species. We are interdependent upon, we are dependent upon each other for our survival. Without each other, we would perish.
Yeah.
Right? Social.
Yeah.
And that social aspect of us means that we get together and we procreate, we have babies, we further the species, right? And the basis of being an interdependent species means that we need to and want to trust each other. Trust is our default. Okay. And what that means is the people that you interact with in person, the phone calls, emails, and text messages you get, you want to and need to trust that the person on the other end, or you're interacting with, or you're in line with at the grocery store, has your best interest in mind, that they don't mean to hurt or harm you. And so we want to give the benefit of the doubt.
I get that. I get that.
All day, every day, as we interact, we just trust because that's what feels good. Okay. Not trusting others doesn't really feel good. This fear.
And you don't even think about it. You don't, the other part, the trust part, you don't even, it just happens. Like you're saying, we're inclined that way. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
And so when the phone rings, when the emails comes in, when the text messages come in, like you just kind of have the want and need to trust that the person on the other end is good. So the problem with AI, and AI is wonderful. Like, of course it is. Like AI is a tool of technology. A hammer is a tool of technology. Hammers are used to build houses to house people. Okay. Hammers can be used to crack somebody's skull too. Right. But so it can be used for good and bad. Okay. So AI and deep fakes, which of course are, CGI, essentially computer generated imagery, right? Videos that mimic and model humans, and a deep fake is providing content that they didn't actually say or do. Okay. That's a deep fake. A deep fake is somebody taking my imagery and making it say or do something that I didn't say or do. Okay, that's a deep fake. And so
glad you pulled all that out of there, because that's a great definition of that word. Go ahead.
That's what that is. And that a voice clone is not necessarily fraud, but a voice clone is taking somebody's voice and cloning it. Now, if you couple that with video, then that becomes a deep fake. Whether it's video or just audio, if you didn't say or do it, then it's a fake. That being said, today, now all the bad actors have to do is just get minutes, not even minutes, seconds of audio and minutes of video and create an entire deep fake of you or I. What's scary about this is that it's perfect. Like humans cannot tell the difference between deep fake audio and real audio. There's no telling the difference. There's nothing about it that says it's different. We do not have the capacity to determine the difference. That being said, somebody grabs your daughter's, 10 seconds of Instagram, Snapchat, whatever video, audio, they can create an entire dialogue that she has not said. Okay. Every word out of the dictionary, fluidly. And so you get a phone call that sounds like your daughter screaming in the background. And then a man comes on the phone saying, I have your daughter and she's kidnapped and she's going to be harmed and hurt unless you pay the ransom. And here's the wiring instructions. Your first reaction 100% of the time, biologically, is that my daughter is at risk. What do I do now to rectify this risk and to pay the money? Initially, that's what you're going to do. And the problem here is that because we don't generally look at security as something that we want and need to begin with, we don't want to think these things are going to happen to us to begin with. Our immediate instinct is to do whatever is necessary to get our loved ones to a safe environment, which is to pay the ransom. But what I am saying is that we have to look at our biological impulses, what they are, how we react, and why today, right? Versus our intellectual understanding about what's happening in front of us. What is the likelihood that your daughter's really going to be kidnapped? I mean,
you got to break that down logically, of course, and that's the importance of education is having that knowledge to be able to not react, but to, like you just said, break that down and start thinking logically. But in that exact same frame, for somebody receiving this, not knowing what it is, and maybe different variations of the deep fake, but what have you experienced or heard of or example of what is the first time that along that path that somebody went, oh wait, this is a warning signal? I mean, how do we get that closer to the beginning, and how often is it happen down the road, and what examples can you think of from your experience?
So we've seen multiple situations where the actual, daughter was actually on a trip and she was on a ski trip and somebody cloned her voice. And because here's what's happening. The daughter's on a ski trip. So what is she doing on that ski trip? You tell me, what is she doing on that ski trip? She's posting the whole thing online.
100%. Her social media is blowing up.
We're making it easy for the bad guy. So she's posting the entire trip on the internet. And so how do they know the parent? Because she's connected to her parents on Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and everything else. Okay, we're giving away all the intelligence, all the necessary information for the bad actors to commit these frauds. We're making it perfectly easy for them. And so they're taking all of this information about us and using it against us, and we have no idea how or why. It's kind of comical. Not.
It is. Well, okay, it is and it isn't. You're right. And I think one of the most devastating, or one of the biggest adders to that, what you just said, is I don't think people really think about what you just said. And what you just said, by the way, we've got over 1,500 people here. What you just said was or pointed out was that, okay, this is all going on. We're just doing this. We're just living our lives and Snapchatting out. And then there's these evil people that have their business. Their what they do is this. So they go after and are very organized. So you have to realize there are people out there that aren't just other people, some teenager in his parents' basement, which is what we think of, but there's actual people that are sophisticated and using this against you. And worse than that, spending hours and hours and hours and hours and whatever every day working on making that happen because they've got a goal and it's evil.
Well, that is it. See, these sociopaths and psychopaths that we talk about, like I said, they have no sympathy, empathy, guilt, or remorse. They don't care if your father like liquidates his bank account and wires all his money to them because he thinks you're in trouble. They don't care that he ends up homeless on the street or that he takes his own life. They don't care about that. That's what you and I are up against. And these criminals that we speak to
every day,
and these criminals that we speak to, what most people don't realize is that the criminal element today, and often people say to me, oh, if these hackers would just take what they know, they could cure cancer. That's not going to happen. You know why? Because they don't care about curing.
No, that's not what they're doing. No.
These are the worst of society. And so they also say, oh, they're so sophisticated. Well, they are, but what they really truly are is they're organized. They treat fraud as a business.
Yeah, good word. Okay? Good word.
They treat fraud as a business. And not only do they treat fraud as a business, the people who work for the organized criminals today, when I say work, I use that term loosely, because right now, and anybody can Google search this on their own, the United Nations estimates that right now there's probably around 300,000 victims of human trafficking worldwide, whose job it is 18 hours a day is to commit cybercrime. So in other words, the organized criminals that are stealing billions and billions of dollars every single year, the people that are actually doing the work itself are people like you and I who answer an online job listing that for an administrator or a programmer at $35 an hour, free room and board, we'll fly you here, we'll pay for all your transportation, and there's room for improvement. There's a $2,000 signing bonus. And then they get on the plane. They put their life on hold to go do this job, and they show up and they get picked up in a van and they confiscate all their passports, and they end up on a compound that's barbed wired. It's a couple thousand acres, and it's got 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people working with guns to their heads all day long, victims of human trafficking, right? This is who is actually scamming us, because they have no choice, and they're beaten and tortured if they don't make their quota. Like, this is all available. Everybody has access to this information. You can see pictures of these compounds online. And all those wrong number text messages that we get, I respond to all of them. Why? Because I end up communicating with those victims of human trafficking. Now, I don't suggest that anybody do this, because if you do this, now you're actually engaging victims of human trafficking,
right?
And put them in trouble. You need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get people hurt. Just listen to what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So I engage them.
And potentially yourself, not necessarily.
Yes. But what you don't want to do is scam bait these victims of trafficking, because it literally gets them in trouble. It gets them physically hurt. I do it strategically just so I can learn their processes, so that I can take what their processes are and I can explain it to my learners, so I can allow them to see what's happening here, so that going forward, if they were to engage, because they're lonely, they respond to that wrong number text message often because they're literally lonely. Like, that's a thing. 25% of all of us at all times, all humans on earth right now, 25% are actually, their default when they get out of bed are lonely. That's a real thing. Okay. And it's many lonely people that respond to these criminals, not knowing, they just want social interaction. And before you know it, like, they are in this trap, they're ensnared. And so when I'm engaged with the criminals, in this case, the victims of human trafficking, I am just gently and gingerly, like, working the process to understand. And when I do, what I've found over the years is that all they want, the criminals, is to engage in rapport. They're just trying to gain your trust. And so if I wake up first thing in the morning, there's a text message. Good morning, dear. How did you sleep last night? And throughout the day, Gloria, let's say, is sending me text messages of her at yoga, her with her girlfriends, what she bought in her grocery cart, like the food she's eating, organic foods and vegetables and avocado.
Drawing you in.
Pardon?
Drawing you in.
Drawing you in. So and before I go to bed, I hope you sleep well tonight, dear. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And so I wake up and there's a text from Gloria, and this goes on and on and on. And so what happens to loneliness after a week or two?
Oh yeah, she's filled your spot.
Yeah, it dissipates. Now I feel whole again. And after a couple of weeks, Gloria says, hey, let's get on a WhatsApp. Let's get on a video chat. Like, let's like really meet each other. And I'm like, really? You want to meet? And so what do I see when I get on with Gloria? I see the photos of the woman that I was corresponding with, which generally is like a Russian model, you know, beautiful, right?
Right, right.
But like I hear the voice behind the face, the AI generated face overlay. I hear the voice of a young Asian female. And you know the difference in the voice. You know,
100%. Yeah. We don't have to play political games. There are realities in life. You recognize that.
Yeah. And
I talked about accents. I even said, I love all the different kinds of accents.
And so immediately I know I'm corresponding with the victim of human trafficking. And so now, like, you know, we're just having a nice, cool, calm conversation. Like I'm not, and listen, in here, all this dialogue, there's very little flirtation. There's very little sexual innuendo. It's really just about building trust.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a whole lot of romance there. It's really about building trust. And after a couple of weeks, and now the video call, the next day, she sends me pictures of her mobile phone account and her cryptocurrency account. And she shows me, I've just made 80% on my investments. I can show you how to do that. And now that I just trust Gloria, now that my loneliness is gone, like whatever Gloria says, Slick Rick over here does.
Gospel. It's gospel. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and you know, it's crazy what I should have written that down. It's crazy what the world that we're living in now. I mean, we've been talking about, and in the opening monologue I talked about, where this is all over, you know, in agencies and in personal. I mean, we're just talking about now just one sector, which is huge. People my age that get into. And I totally get what you're saying there. And I guarantee you tons of people in the audience get what you're saying there, because it's that nice, steady, slow thing, but not ever knowing what's on the other side. But my point is, it's just, this is all over the place. It's amazing how there's this dark, disgusting, secret underbelly throughout our entire society. I mean, we're unveiling a lot of this now, and our whole society on both sides is now even this is a fragmented, fanatical time, and what you're saying now is just another element that's really probably firing all this stuff forward.
So two things, right? Number one, I actually just canceled my next appointment. I got a whole nother hour.
Good, because we got a bunch more questions. I was just getting ready to start to say, hey, dude.
No. I just canceled it. It's me and you. It's me and you. But it's all of us together. All right. I just canceled.
Okay, great.
We're good for another hour.
Because you got about 1,550 people just steadily just kind of dialed into what you're saying here. So that's good. I appreciate that.
I canceled it. All right. So Jennifer Carter wants to know, are employees truly prepared to detect AI generated fraud today? The answer is absolutely not.
Right.
Okay. So asking about employees, I'm wondering what your perspective is and why. And it is because here's why employees are not. And employees are also consumers. They're citizens. They're you and I. We're all at some level employees too, right? You know.
Yeah, sure.
We are, or we were at some point if we were working. That said, most security awareness training today. So most people who are in like government or healthcare, you've had what's called phishing simulation training. Military, you've probably had phishing simulation training.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
About 60% of corporations have engaged in some form of compliance-based phishing simulation training that I find is ineffective. Okay. And no, you know, I'm not slandering any companies out there. What I'm saying is that it is essentially putting the cart before the horse. This type of compliance-based phishing simulation training is great for the problems it's designed to solve, which is just phishing. That's it. That's all it does. Okay. It doesn't.
So these systems don't really go. I know phishing is a deal, but it's compared to what you were just saying, it's a different deal, which is maybe as big, but certainly not bigger. I mean, it's only part of the problem, is what you're saying.
It is a part of the problem that is phishing, in getting inside of somebody's network, compromising
Right.
their email, somebody
Right.
providing passwords to a bad guy who emails them is a common problem, and it's an attack vector, they call it. It's an attack vector,
an entry point.
It's an entry point that's very successful. So you do need to understand how to protect yourself and your organization against that. But that's all it does. It's not necessarily talking to the human sitting in the chair who worries about their identity being stolen, or worries about their credit cards being compromised, or worries about, their dad who can't stop responding when the phone rings to people who are trying to get his social security number. Like, it doesn't speak to the human where they are in their lives regarding their own personal security. That's the problem with most employee-based training, is it just doesn't solve those problems, which it should. And most companies are just engaged in that type of training once a year so that they are compliant by state and federal laws. Or they might engage in what we call micro e-learning, which is like, every week or so you get like a little video, which is good, but it's not enough to put the horse in front of the cart. Essentially, you need to back up a little bit, literally, and say, okay, let's sit our employees down and let's engage in an additional form of security awareness training that talks to them where they are in their lives. My philosophy.
So you're saying, you're describing now a custom thing, right? Where you're customizing towards who you have in the room. Is that where is that what that looks like, or am I missing it?
Exactly. Like what security awareness training should be, which is what I've been doing for 30 years, talking to real estate agents or whoever, is I'm having a dialogue, like what we're doing right now. This is a dialogue.
Exactly.
Like if I just droned on and on and on and on and on and talked at everybody, nobody wants that. I mean, do you raise your family by talking at them? No.
Awesome point.
You have conversations with them. You talk about all of life's strife by having a dialogue with your loved ones. You don't talk at them. You don't make them watch a video. You sit down with them and have a conversation with love in your heart. That's what raising a family is. Security is a scary thing. It involves predators and thieves that want to hurt you. You can't just say, do this, or else in a phishing simulation training. Like, you have to have a conversation with people. That's what security awareness training should be. That's what the Strategic Human Firewall is. Like, that's what it's designed to be, essentially. I call it security appreciation. It's the shift from awareness, which is basic training, awareness, which is knowing, to appreciation, which is caring, right? It's when employees appreciate how security protects their own lives, behavior begins to change permanently. I call it the security appreciation gap. Okay. It's that chasm between like our intellectual understanding of risk, which again is awareness, to the emotional commitment to act on that knowledge, which again is appreciation, And if you look at it from the point of view that all security is personal, which I believe all security is personal, right? It is the core belief that people protect what they love. And by teaching someone to secure, say, their child's digital footprint, your own identity, your bank account, your own passwords, you create more secure employees at work. And most companies aren't doing that at all.
Yeah. So on that point, you, especially a little bit ago, when I put this question up from Clive, it was kind of guiding along what you were talking about just back then, just a couple of minutes ago. And you were talking about changing that conversation, and when we were talking about personalizing that conversation, where it then becomes rooted in love. You're literally taking that to another level in leadership roles, whether that's a parent, whether that's an employer, whether that's whatever. any of those options.
Yeah.
So that's how you would answer Clive, wouldn't it be? How do we train instinct, not just knowledge, into cybersecurity? Because it's got to go for more than just one class.
That's exactly the goal, right? That's the goal. The goal is to instinctually, instead of people like emotionally reacting,
Yeah.
they intellectually recognize risk as it's coming down the pike, so to speak.
Right.
You're looking at the email that's coming in, you're listening to the phone call, you're acknowledging the body language of the person standing in front of you as to, okay, does this particular communication resonate with truth, or does it resonate with something doesn't seem right here? Which is where the instincts kick in. But in order to develop those instincts, you have to kind of understand a little bit about our own biology. Like we talked about the human blind spot and how we trust by default, and how our instinct is to want to trust the other person on the other end of the line. But as you begin to like unravel all that stuff, and you look at like a lifetime of just kind of like, meandering through life and being targeted by criminals all the time, you have to kind of like back up a little bit and look at why we react the way that we do in the first place, and why we resist security to begin with. And so I'm going to ask you I'm going to provide some examples and then a few like qualifying questions, right? And this is kind of like what I do for my audience. So all the people that are basically like
me, is this active to me?
Yeah.
Do I get to answer some questions?
Yeah.
Is that what is it? We're here? All right.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
I'm ready.
So I get in front of a live audience, right? And I'll ask, how many of you can honestly say that you are using a different passcode? Like you can honestly say you're using a different passcode across all your critical accounts. Raise your hand, right?
Sort of. Not
Sort
really.
of.
I hate passcodes.
Yeah. Okay. So usually my audiences, right? I get like maybe 15% of the room, which I'm guessing like for everybody paying attention today, maybe 15% of you use a different passcode across all your critical accounts, which means 85% of you are using the same.
You know how hard that is? You know how hard that is?
It's not. It's not.
Why? Why is it? Well, I'm learning from a new intern that I'm starting to work with now about some things. And producer Barbie used to be really great at it. I've always said exactly what I just said. Why is it not?
Okay, look at
which I believe you. It's not, by the way. I just want to know how I can do it.
By the time we're done here, my goal, my role is to make everybody paying attention today in the top 10% of secure in the country. That's my goal. I can do that. We can do that. This is easy. It's so easy, right? You'd be like, there's no way. It's that easy. Top 10%. Okay. Number one, if 85% of you are using the same passcode across multiple accounts, knowing right now,
Can I change my answer? Can I change my answer? I think I'm going to get in trouble.
It's okay. No, it's okay. It's where you're at is the normal. It's the baseline. Okay.
Yeah.
Knowing, and this is true, it's a true thing, that right now there are 15 billion stolen passwords on the dark web. Okay. 15 billion. So what does that mean? It means your passwords, many of them are on the dark web. And in a society and a culture where 94% of us are using the same passcode across multiple accounts, you're making it really easy for the bad guy. Okay, so how do we make the data that the bad guy has useless to the thief? How do you make a password useless to the thief, Rod?
Unique.
That's
that's the ultimate word to what you just said, right? Isn't it that the ultimate word? Unique.
Yeah. Never use the same passcode twice. In other words, right? So
how often should you change them? How often should you change them?
So I don't change my passcodes unless there's been a data breach. Okay. Okay. Security has got to be clear. I'm not going to do it. Okay. Everybody's the same thing. We're all the same. If it's not easy, we're not going to do it. That's how we are. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay? But right now, if you're using the same passcode across multiple accounts, you got to change them all now. And I see why you're saying that. Because it isolates. It puts in a silo each one of your accounts. So even if
Something happened there. You'll change that if that's a breach. But now that it's totally different and aside from all the others, right? That's exactly the point.
That's exactly the point. So going forward,
connected dots here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, if everybody in the next week changes all their passcodes, you are already in the top 10%. Just doing that one thing. I'm telling you, because 90% of us are using the same passcode across multiple accounts, and the passcodes are leaked right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by you changing up your passcodes, you're already that one thing. And I'm going to show you more things to be in the top 10%. Now, you say, okay, well,
now hold on before you go on. And you know what? It's probably getting worse and worse and worse and more. Not doing that becomes a worse and worse and worse and worse and worse decision by the day because of all the technology that's moving past us, right? I bet you it's even worse tomorrow.
Compounded risk, they call that.
Yeah, that's the word. There you go. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So how do you change up all your passcodes? What do? How do you figure out what passcodes to use, phrases, this and that, uppercase, lowercase? That's ridiculous. We don't do that. What we do is we engage a password manager. Password manager. It's a software program that's been available for 25 years. This is a technology that's been at our fingertips forever. Password manager. It's a software that you download off the web, right? Just do a Google search for password manager. Easy, okay? You're going to find articles left and right, all over the first couple of pages of searches. The best password managers for 2026. You click the link, you read the article, you figure out which one you want, you download it, you install it, and now, one by one, you begin to change your passcodes because the password manager facilitates the process of generating long, strong, uppercase, lowercase, numbers and characters, passwords that you're never, ever, ever going to need to remember. But now the password manager remembers them for you, okay? And so now you train the password manager to recognize each website that you visit on a regular basis, change up your passcodes for banking and social and PayPal and eBay and Amazon and so forth. And when you want to visit those websites in the future, you visit the password manager. It takes you directly to the URL, goes to the login page, plugs in the username and the passcode. You are good. And now you're already.
Wait. Hold on. Let me make sure I got this path right. So I want to sign into Google now. I'm implementing this new system. I want to sign into Google now. It says, okay, what's your password? So instead of trying to remember the password or having, I'll get to that in a second. You go to your password manager and instead you click on the Google link there where it fills everything backfills or autofill is the right word, I think, into that and signs you in. One, is that correct? And then two, in that same thing, do you not say like what I do? I try and I don't want to get into my password management. I will be ashamed. I will be Sean. But what will you not then ever save the password on the Google so that I don't know what you call it, remembers it, remembers you. So
number one, yes, that is correct. Number two,
don't do it.
Well, number two, so Google knows me, right? I'm logged into Google right now. I'm logged into Google 24/7, 365.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, so Google logs me out every 30 days. That's their default. So every 30 days, Google logs me out. Now, I stay logged into Google because I'm on Google all day, every day. I'm not logging into Google every time I pull up my browser. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Log me out and I log back in. But when I log back in, I plug in my username, I plug in my passcode, and I get a one-time text message to my mobile phone via two-factor authentication. Okay.
You saw me do that when I was
Yeah.
We're
going to talk about two-factor in a minute, but so with Amazon, I'm kind of logged in all the time because I'm always on there, which is kind of a problem. But like pretty much every other website in my life, I am logging out pretty much every single time with pretty much every other website. PayPal,
except for those two.
Except for those two.
Okay.
Everything else, I am logged out. And I don't allow it to save my passcode. My password manager manages the passwords, not the websites.
All of them. Okay. So yeah, those two that you use all the time, you just stay logged in. And if your computer does a restart or something, you deal with it. but outside of that, you stay logged in. Then those occasional ones, you go over and you just go through the Google password manager.
I have a third-party password manager that I download and install that I pay annually for. It costs me $17 a year. I've been using it now since 2004, right? It's on probably 10 or 12 different devices that I have in my life, including the one that I'm on right now, my mobile phone, tablet, my girls, my honey, employees, like different password managers for different people in my life. And that manages all the passwords in my life, and I have full control over it. It utilizes two-factor authentication and
all out of that one subscription.
Yeah, for $17 a year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Rod, let me get morbid for a minute. When I die, because it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
My girls and my family have access to all of my accounts.
Oh my God.
Continuity, right? Because I got investments. I got Roth IRAs, I got pensions, I got funds that I want my girls to have access to. And when I go, which is going to happen, hopefully not for 30 years, but when I go, like if I go down on my bike or whatever, like they've got access to my stuff. And I told them, make sure you pay for the mobile phone plan for at least a couple of years. I want them to have access to my two-factor authentication to get access to those accounts.
How do they have access to your Wait, I missed that one.
It's okay.
I know. No. Hold on. I want to clarify. I know what two-factor authentication is, but you just said keep the plan for 2 years past when I die. I pass away. Because I want them to have access to that. So how does keeping that give them access? Do they also have access to in that same thing? So is that what you're saying?
The idea behind keeping the phone alive is down the road, they may discover there are additional accounts that daddy had that we need to like get access to. And because daddy's daddy, he probably had two-factor authentication on them. Therefore, we have to keep his phone alive just to get access to those dormant accounts that we might not have found until later. That's the point.
Which they can get into because they have access through your through the identification. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out there.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question by Jason. Okay. By the way, I told you we're an hour and 5 minutes already, and we're not even a third of the way into the questions yet. Not even a third of the way.
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming up. I've only gone down so far, but this is I'm glad. Thank you again for and by the way, there's well over 2,000 people here. Jason has a question here. What industries are being hit hardest right now by BEC attacks? So I think that actually fits in real nicely here.
So Jason,
great question.
I think like what we're seeing right now are industries like construction and manufacturing. I mean, certainly in healthcare, they have their whole set of problems.
Oh yeah.
Has their whole set of problems. But like where the big money is these days for the criminals is with industries like manufacturing and construction that aren't necessarily, say, like tech savvy. Let's say like technology isn't like a big motivator in construction and manufacturing. Like tech, when you think like when I say tech, like you think like Google, you think finance, you think those are tech industries, right? But manufacturing, construction is still lots of boots on the ground, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah, I come from that industry. We built machines, so we had a little bit of tech, but not what you're talking about.
Lots of manual like labor, so to speak. Okay.
Exactly.
Still a tremendous amount of cash flow.
Exactly.
Okay. Still a tremendous amount of cash flow, and those in those industries don't have a whole lot of tech experience, let's say. Okay.
No, but they got 40% margins typically, 34, 35, 38, 40% margins, millions of dollars a year. That's a lot of cash flow. Go ahead.
Do re mi. Okay. So they are big targets for email compromise scams. The BEC is a business email compromise scam. And what is the point of that? The point of that is so that the criminals get inside access to the employee's email, right? And once they're inside the email, now they have access to all of the colleagues of that employee. And not only do they have access to the colleagues, they have access to the inner workings of those colleagues. Then they know who's pulling the lever in accounts receivable, in billing, in bookkeeping, and so forth. Okay, so the bad guys say if you own the person's email, you own the person. And so getting access to inside the person's email, you could change the passwords for all the various accounts. You could begin to ask for payment to be made to a particular vendor for whatever reason. And what we're seeing is with the business email compromise inside of these industries is, for example, I just spoke at a bunch of different conferences in agriculture, right? And these businesses, like they're doing millions of dollars in, selling dairy, let's say, right?
Oh, absolutely. At least.
And so, and who's running the organizations? Farmers, right?
Farmers.
Yeah. The last thing a farmer wants to do is deal with a password. Like they're dealing with cows and sheep and goats all day long, right? Like the stuff that that allows you and I to survive. Like they're a critical infrastructure. Food.
They're all around me.
Like the most important, on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And these individuals are essentially like running these businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses, and they have like invoices that they have to pay of several $100,000, in some cases monthly. And so when the vendor sends them an invoice via email, what does the dairy farmer do? They pay the bill because they're responsible. But what they don't realize is their vendor's email was compromised through a BEC, a business email compromise. They got phished, or they were using the same passcode across multiple accounts. And what happens when the vendor sends the dairy farmer the invoice, the dairy farmer pays the bill. What they don't realize is that bill was manipulated because the wiring instructions or the billing instructions is going to a criminal enterprise in Southeast Asia.
I was writing down a note here, depending on, I wanted to make sure to remember this right here, because I have a personal life knowledge of this. I told you I worked, I built up a machinery business over 30 years. We got up to the point where we're doing, 12-ish million. There's those blocks, 100,000, $1 million. Now you're starting to become a company, 3 million. You got a couple of employees, 5 million, 12 million. So anyway, we were doing business with one of our customers was a company called Pactive. And Pactive actually owns a little company known as Reynolds. You familiar with Reynolds?
Yeah, of course.
So about 4 years ago, I got an email from their finance, somewhere within their finance department, that said, we are paying this invoice. Please confirm that this change of account ACH payment instructions is from you.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty good size invoice, so we caught it, but the only reason she caught it is because I noticed it, and I called them and I said, I didn't send this invoice here yet. And then we looked at the invoice, and it was the exact same. Not the invoice. We looked at the email address. It was the exact same email, but there was one little letter change. And I had my IT guy follow the path. I don't know how you guys do that stuff, but it was from Southeast Asia. And we ended up not having any problems there. But what it did is it screwed up both the interaction between Pactive, my biggest customer at the time, and us in invoicing and back and forth and all, because it created all this havoc. They had to recreate their whole structure because they were not compensated. They were infiltrated, whatever. They were infiltrated. And so folks, everybody out there, everything he said is probably a little on the light side, to be honest with you, because and I know he's Italian, folks. I know he's a Boston Italian, which is the best kind. But I can tell you personally, I'm telling every one of you right now, and I'm not an expert at all, but I have a life experience. And it hurt my company for quite a while because it shut down a great deal of my revenue coming in, and I still had the bills going out. And I'm a small company still at this point. And yes, we worked off of margins, but you still got, a big payroll, 30, 40 people, every 2 weeks you're paying money out to. That's substantial.
Yeah.
So real life experience. He ain't dicking around. He ain't fucking around with this. So in this, go ahead. Were you going to say something? I was just going to hit Rod here after you're done.
So how often should companies refresh behavioral security training? So, we have what's called in the US, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is so frustrating.
I've heard of that.
Oh, yeah. And I'm booked all of September and October because of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And frankly, I think it's stupid. I think having a month to recognize cybersecurity is ridiculous. So it's like, are we going to have a eat healthy food month? We should have eat healthy food every day.
Every day.
Every
365,
day.
baby.
Are we going to have we probably have a mental health month? We should have a mental health every day. Like these things are required every day. Okay. So how often should companies refresh security training? I would say minimum twice a year, Now there's technology out there that are called, micro e-learning, where you get like dropped, lessons once a week, which is pretty good. Right. And you should do that. That is good. Phishing simulation training, at least a couple of times a year. Micro e-learning. Yes. But an addendum to that, in addition to live in-person security appreciation training, engage in a dialogue with the learner. If all they're doing is watching a video, doing a phishing simulation training, and there's no dialogue there, what's the point of that? You don't raise your family on watching a video. You have to have a conversation. People worry, they have fears, they have concerns. They want to get their own security in order. And that should be done at least once a year. So like I talked about, security appreciation training, that's different.
I like that.
That's putting the horse out in front versus, putting the cart before the horse. So the way I look at it is all security is personal, like we discussed. It is, from my perspective, the core belief that people protect what they love. Okay. And by teaching someone to secure their child's digital footprint, their own identity, you create a more secure employee at work. Right? Security appreciation is, like we discussed, like the shift from awareness, which is knowing, to appreciation, which is caring. Right? And when employees appreciate how security protects their own lives, that permanently changes behavior. No existing security awareness training on site does that. And the idea behind the security appreciation gap, that chasm between employees' intellectual understanding of risk, which is awareness, and the emotional commitment to act on that knowledge, which is appreciation, right? You end up with what I call the kitchen table effect, which is the multiplier effect, where successful training ends with the employee teaching the concepts to their family, cementing those lessons for life. That's what it should be, which it isn't. Do that at least once a year, getting all the employees involved. And what happens next is they run home and they get a credit freeze to protect their own identity. They set up a password manager right away, so their whole family has access to it. They go home and sit their dad down and say, Dad, every time the phone rings, this is what you need to be aware of. This is what happens to you biologically when the phone rings, why you want to trust by default. And before you know it, everybody becomes part of the solution. Everybody becomes their own strategic human firewall in their own lives. That's the point of all that.
Absolutely. 100%. On the flip side of that, this is actually an interesting question. Another one by Clive. I think he jumped in earlier. We already did cybersecurity training. It hit hard. How many companies still think that way? Interesting question. He must have a background there.
So
because I know that's got to happen every now and then, right? I mean, there is what you're talking about now is a successful, well thought out, probably supported by an expert, by the way, which I will want to before the end of the show. And we're almost halfway through the questions so far. But will you see where that private chat, well, for you, I think it's called backstage chat or something like that.
Yeah. So
Put
I
in
just
whatever
addressed live.
contact. Well, yeah. Just put it at some point between now and coming up. Put that in because I'll want to copy and paste your contact information over into the open chat. So you know how it is. Somebody will come on a second after the show, a month after or whatever, and they say, "Oh my God, I wish I would have talked to Robert. I would have asked him this." So just your contact information at some point. God, I don't know how long from now. But yeah, Clive, would you hit on Clive here?
So Clive, that question, that statement that companies make to me when I'm soliciting business, that statement that we already had cybersecurity awareness training. It's as if it's like a one-time thing. We got this, we did it, we never have to do it again. Is ignorant, is what that is. It's ignorant. That's what it is. It's ignorant. It's small-minded. That statement.
It's unknowledgeable. Yeah, it's unknowing because what do we talk about in AI? It changes every day. Go ahead.
It's as if it's this 1 hour topic that we presented. Therefore, we understand it. We know it. We never have to do it again statement. It is so unbelievably frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Because this is an evolving issue. Security today is nothing what security was a year ago. It's nothing what it was 10, 20 years ago. And today, it's nothing that what's going to be 5 months from now, for that matter. So when I do a presentation, I am asked 100% of the time by the meeting planner, we need your PowerPoint. We need your PowerPoint months ahead of time. And I tell them, there's no way I can give you my PowerPoint today, a month ahead of time. I am curating my presentation the morning of the presentation, because there's stuff going on in the world the morning of the presentation that the audience needs to be aware of. So there's no, we did this once, or we did this a year ago, or we're not going to do that again. Like what? Like this is a completely evolving topic that needs consistent attention. Don't get me started, Clive.
Oh, I'm going to get you further down the road here. You caught me finishing up a note I wanted to hit and make sure I did not miss. I told you earlier, we do quite a bit of these shows on this subject. We have 4 lanes in the great middle class, and they're different subjects, playlists, same sort of thing. But what I always ask when we do shows with experts like yourself that really are special, you're on security and leaning into how AI is driving that in a number of ways. I like to ask this question because a year ago, it was a lot longer answer. Only a year ago. So when do you see the world totally different? When do you see with everything that's evolving, everything that's changing? I talk about my son and probably your kids are a little younger. You said in their 20s and late teens.
Yeah.
My kids are in their 40s. I consider that generation the bridge generation, because he has seen what I have seen. Anybody younger than him has never experienced a phone plugged into a wall, on and on and on. Who's never seen any of hey, you remember phone booths? I don't know if you remember phone booths, or before computers or before social media, literally a different world. And he's that bridge. And we talk about how today life is moving so fast, and at a number of different lenses or angles on this show. So for instance, one of our lanes is called The Jetsons Are Coming. I'm very shortly going to be changing that because it's outdated. The Jetsons are here. So how many years do you think it'll be before you look out one day, if you didn't open your eyes between now and then and opened your eyes, How long do you think it'd be until the world is completely different once again?
Yeah. I don't even know if I'm qualified to answer that question. I would say that at this point, at the rate that we're going, I think that we're going to be with AI where it's at and how it's being used. Look, I saw a video just a couple of weeks ago, made in China, of robots, and the robots were dancing along with children who were engaged in like a martial arts Tai Chi type dance, and these robots were doing backflips, and they were dancing as elegantly as the children were. Seeing that, and the robots were only about maybe 5 or 6 feet tall at the most, maybe 4 to 5 feet. Seeing that, I think that we're probably going to be changing lots of what we do within the next decade in such a way where a lot of what's happening today might be unrecognizable in that regard. What's scary to me though, on all that is like the current leadership that we have going on in the world, and how there's just so much anger and so much dissension and so much conflict that there are things that are happening there that we see every day that is causing lots of consternation. It's that worries me in regards to what the change might look like. And I don't want to go too deep in the weeds because frankly, it's a little frightening to me.
Yeah, no, there's a definite responsibility, and we just did a show on this exact topic like 4 days ago or something. I don't remember if it was the end of last week or the beginning of this week, but there is a responsibility that is still a concerning issue within that whole AI and and blockchain and automation. And I mean, we can go OI. There's a lot of different aspects of our life. I mean, Google is actually AI. I mean, it's one of the earlier AIs. It's been around for a while, but it's really around now. And so that's why I like to kind of flesh out that question to continually think about it, because I've been doing AI since I was on one of the first shows I told you about a year and a half ago, 510 shows now. And I used to ask that same question. So I've been asking it for a year and a half. And within a year and a half, that number to where it's currently at in the last couple of weeks, literally is 10 years would have been really quick earlier on. And it was up to 25, 50 years, maybe 100, certainly, hopefully within your kids' life, your grandchildren's lifetime. That all that conversation's gone away to what we just had today in that, within a decade kind of thing. And I have a feeling that might even adjust, specifically because of what you said. When you do your preparation for a talk with somebody, you do your final stuff, and especially stats and details, statistics, that earlier on, because if you do it a month ahead of time, you're going to be off center. You're going to be slightly behind, right?
Technology is evolving faster than humans' capacity to recognize its, power. And most of us are, still trying to figure out how to manage passwords and set up two-factor authentication. And now AI comes around the block, which is what has me concerned that we're such significant targets of all the various frauds that are being perpetrated. There was a scam that happened in Hong Kong last year, 2 years ago around this time, where an employee got on a Zoom call thinking he was talking to a half a dozen of his colleagues. And as a result of that Zoom call, that CFO wired $25 million. And all of the employees, coworkers that he was on the Zoom call with were all deep fakes. And that right there has become the template for what criminals are going for right now. Yeah. So, and that right there is a perfect example of an employee that just wanted to do his job, received a bunch of emails from who he thought were his coworkers because their emails were compromised, gets on a Zoom call with who he thinks are his coworkers because they were using technology with face overlay, AI face overlay, and wired the money because he's a good person and trusts that the technology he has at his fingertips and the people that he's corresponding with are who they say they are. But really,
who's been taught to trust,
it's
to your point.
biological.
Well, yeah, or I shouldn't say that. Yeah, you're right. Good point. It hasn't been taught to look at that differently, to have a little more connective points to it, right?
Yeah. So we being civilized human beings, we're raised with something called civilized conditioning. And civilized conditioning is how your mommy and daddy raise you. They teach you to give kisses and hugs. They say please and thank you. To a degree, they say respect authority, right? And they teach you to be appropriate, right? Mind your manners. Keep your hands to yourself. You don't hit, hurt, or harm others. Civilized conditioning is us being civil towards one another. It's a good thing, And it starts like when we're young. Like when I say young, like if you're a parent and you've had a 2-year-old, especially like a 2-year-old, it doesn't matter, boy or girl, like they pull hair. They bite. Like 2-year-olds can be vicious and violent. Like they can be, And so our job is to teach them to be kind and cordial. Again, keep your hands to yourself. Be nice, be kind, say nice words. And we incorporate civilized conditioning into our culture for good reason, to be civil towards one another. Unfortunately, a good 3+% of the population doesn't get the message because they are, by their nature, sociopaths and psychopaths. And hitting, hurting, harming is normal to them. So,
right.
And trust is a big factor in that, right? And so we are raised to trust that everybody has good intentions, and we don't want to think or believe that bad people are out there doing bad things to us, even though we like to see it in television, in the movies, in true crime. Even though we know it's real, we watch these shows and like, oh, those poor people. Too bad it happened to them. Good thing it won't happen to me.
Okay, let me ask you this. To your point, right there, Jeffrey asked the human blind spot, which we talked about earlier, but you're describing right now. Concept makes so much sense, and like you're saying, there's very few people. Why isn't this talked about more? I mean, I think we in general know, but from your lens, from your perspective, your opinion, your experience of almost 40 years, right around there. What do you say to Jeffrey?
Jeffrey, I love you, man. I agree with you. Why isn't it talked about more? It's because, first of all, this is a term that I have coined. Okay, this is something that I have developed over the course of.
Yeah, I saw that was it's trademarked, isn't it?
Yes, this is a term that I have coined over the course of my professional life. And my job is to get in front of live audiences to explain to them the issue that we have in regards to the human blind spot. And the people that are in a position to help me put this in front of employees are the chief information security officers of corporations, that their job is to provide their employees security awareness training, which means bring somebody like me in to talk about these issues. But here's what they say to me. Well, I need metrics. I need to see results. Can you show me a spreadsheet of the words that you use and how that gets people to understand risk? And it's like, well, and I say to that CISO, is that how you raise your family? Like, do you say to when you try to teach your family something, do you sit them down and make them watch a video that says, do this or don't do that and don't do that or else? Or do you actually sit down and have a conversation with your loved ones? Do you walk your child through the process of life by sitting them down and watch a video? Or do you actually have a conversation with them? And that's what this is. And lots of companies, like, they only want metrics when it comes to explaining security awareness. They want hardcore numbers of results. And it's like, well, but this is different. Like, you don't sit down with a therapist and say, okay, show me results. No, it's a dialogue. And when it comes to fear and worry and concern, talking about predators and thieves and sociopaths who want to hurt you, it boils down to having a dialogue to talk about why it is that we as humans expose ourselves to risk willingly, which is what we do. And because we truly don't want to think or believe that these things can happen to us. And again, I've said it 1,000 times, the likelihood of it happening is kind of slim. But when it does, it can be devastating. So it's a good thing to understand it now so that you can recognize it as it's happening.
So while it's unique, I think one of the more things that, especially you were talking about, one of the more evolving things, at least right now, with all the technology. I mean, I see TikToks and I'm in social media, so I see all the AI stuff done, and there's a lot of really good stuff. And
perfect.
You can if you're lucky, maybe see something, but like you said, the eye can't connect those two together. But so Don here, but this is one of the things you focused on, and I focus on because I see it every day. Like you said, it's perfect. Voice cloning fraud is terrifying, he's saying, and I don't blame him for saying that. And I don't know how close we are, but he's asking how close are we to stopping it effectively.
Yeah, I want to just point out, Don, that I am not what you would consider a fatalist. So a fatalist is, for example, at the beginning of the show, we talked about did we talk about this? And I'm going to answer your question, but hear me out, right? Part of when I, roll out and get my audiences on the same, playing field in regards to managing risk and what security is and what security isn't, I asked them a bunch of questions. And one of the questions I asked was, how many of you are using a different passcode across multiple accounts? One of the questions
talked about it. You talked about being able to get to the top 10%.
Yeah.
And go on.
And so one of the questions I asked them is how many of you, and did I ask you, how many of you actually have a home security system? Do we talk about that?
We talked home security. No, we did not. We talked about a password manager, and we talked about using all the same email passwords across all your social media.
Yeah. So hear me out, Don, right? So part of getting to the top 10% is effectively recognizing risk. And in order to do that, you have to challenge people's belief systems. And this is not a technology problem; it's a human problem. And when you challenge a person's belief systems in regards to what they think or believe security is, and I know that just sounds silly to people. I know what security is. Duh, you don't have to tell me what security is. Listen to me, hear me out, please, trust me. So when you ask them qualifying questions, how many of you actually have a home security system, right? And knowing that, in the United States, every year, between 1.5 and 2 million homes are burglarized, literally every year. That means in the next decade, that's between 15 and 20 million homes are burglarized. So ask, how many of you have a home security system? If I get 15% of the room to raise their hand, that's a lot, which means 85% don't have a home security system. And then I ask them okay, so why don't you have one? You obviously made a decision not to install one. Why didn't you? And the answers begin to come in. People raise their hand. They say, well, we don't have a home security system because they say we have insurance. Well, as if insurance is going to protect you at 3 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have insurance. That's what they say. This is legit. Okay. And I get it. I understand where they're coming from. And then people say, well, we don't have a home security system because my husband says if they're going to break in, they're going to break in. What are we going to do? As if you have no ability to make it even yourself even a little bit of a tougher target, installing a beware of dog sign, buying an ADT protected home sign, anything. If they're going to break in, they're going to break in. We call that a fatalist attitude. And many people have a fatalist attitude when it comes to security. Why bother? If the password manager can get hacked, why bother? Well, I don't know that the password manager can get hacked. And while there's no such thing as 100% security, security is about layers of protection. Layers of protection are the more things that you do, the more secure you're going to be. So we talked password management, using a password manager, and two-factor authentication. I asked my audiences, how many of you use a two-factor authentication? If I get 15, 20% of the room, that's a lot, which means 80 to 90% are not using two-factor authentication, and they're using the same passcode across multiple accounts, which makes it really, really easy for the bad guy to get inside your email. The bad guys say, if you get inside their email, if you own the email, you own the person. You don't want that to happen in your life. Okay. So
let me as you're finishing this point, because I want to inject this in right now as you're talking. What's the biggest mistake organization make after a cyber incident? We're talking about that what leads up to it. But then finish your point with Jason here, would you? He asked a question just a minute ago.
So the biggest mistake that they're making in regards to after an incident is they don't do a full forensics investigation to determine the exact extent of that breach. And so they end up finding out sometimes as much as a year or more later, the extent of that breach, which ultimately means that more and more information was compromised. The bad actors dug deeper into that network, and ultimately more data was exposed that they didn't even realize, never giving the victims a chance to actually react to the initial data breach. So that's the biggest mistake that they're making. Okay.
And even maybe leaving stuff that's in there to where there's some siphoning in addition to that, maybe even going on, or phishing going on.
Yeah, yeah. So the question revolving on home security, like the ultimate answer that people give me is they don't install the home security system because they say, I don't want to live like that. And what they're saying is, that's what they say. They literally say, this is the most common answer that I get. I don't want to live like that. And I say, well, what does that actually mean? And people say, well, I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to have to worry. I don't want a constant reminder that people could want to hurt me, is what they say. And so
be the opposite, man. Be the opposite. To me, it just, not that I'd be scared, even if I wasn't, just having that, it's just like, well, I know there's nothing. I don't even have to consider it. If there was a weird sound in the back corner, I know that was just a weird sound in the back corner. Not to say that you're all paranoid or anything, but to me, it'd be the opposite. That's too bad. You get people are thinking. We need to change the minds of people and their mindset, their direction at what they're coming at, right?
That's what we're doing here now. That's what I do. So you just brought up a really good point. And you just brought up a really good point. So part of this problem of resistance is that we are fatalists when it comes to this stuff. We do nothing. We don't act at all. Why bother? If they're going to break in, they're going to break in. And it's like, whoa, security is about layers of protection. Okay. And so, and ultimately, like the part of the problem here is as people are consuming their lives and determining whether or not they're going to engage in security practices, they resist security for one fundamental reason. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question, Rod. I'm a guy that has, and this is true, 22 plus security cameras. So let's just say you don't know me at all. You don't know what I do for a living, but you hear like this guy down the street and he's got 22 security cameras. What would your understanding believe, or what would your view of his belief systems? He wakes up every day. He's got 22 security cameras. He must be what?
Good question. A little broad brush for me to give a small answer. So I got to give one of my patented a little bit longer answers. First question would be is how much property you're on, and I know you're along the ocean there, so that's an interesting dichotomy. That'd be the first question. Second question would be, are you in the mafia in some way, being Italian? My next question would be, you're a high visibility person. And not wanting, the seekers out there in the world to interfere in your space. And last thing would be, are you ultra paranoid? I think those are the most I could come. Yeah, I was waiting for that one to the end because I knew that's where you were probably going to go.
And that's the problem, because we in this culture, in this country, we associate security and paranoia. We directly associate security and paranoia. When someone says, I don't want to install a home security system because I don't want to live like that, they are literally saying the words to me, and I don't want to live in fear, as if a security system is a constant reminder that you need to worry, which is so ridiculous. Security is not paranoia. Paranoia is a mental health dis-ease. It is truly somebody who is at odds with their own mind and their own universe. They truly do believe that others are out to get them. They truly do live in fear because their body is playing tricks on them. It's awful. I have a first cousin who suffers from that disease. This poor kid, I think right now she might be living in her car. She truly does think that others are out to get them. But when we as a culture are so
Well, you don't even have to go that far. Anytime we talk about this subject, this point always seems to come up. My youngest granddaughter is 2 years old and a couple of months. I was at her birth and hung out with my son and his wife, my daughter-in-law, during that whole period. And at that point, he taught me, he said, look, just try ChatGPT. And so I started a little journey of opening up this door of what we're going into. And that's why subjects like security and that really interest me. But at that time, it was her first birthday. I think it was her first, not her second. Yeah, it was her first. I was talking with my daughter-in-law's mother, right? Wonderful lady, my age, maybe a little bit older, possibly. But she made this comment. We were talking about IT. We were talking about AI and what the world is, what's happening. Because I'm very fascinated, I'm a very curious person, so I dug in a lot. And her comment to me was, I don't know anything about this stuff. I just, I don't get it. I don't want to, it's too much. I don't want to get involved in it. And instantly, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But instantly, I thought back to when the internet first started. And people my age back then, literally, there was a huge depression rise during that period of time of acceleration because they were cut out of society, literally. Their family was there. It wasn't physical, but everything that the world was now experiencing, this group of people, they were like in the native Indian land, or, they were so off grid. They were literally off grid, right in the middle of society. And it was a real thing. This is even more. And that's why people like you, and I'm not setting up a close here, I promise you, but that's why people like you are so important to this conversation, because now we're starting to talk about AI and all this, but what is got to catch up pretty quick is, like everything else, the law and the defenses and all this stuff catches up after. It's behind always, right? It's chasing. This conversation, this stuff I think it's the most important part of AI and all this stuff that we're going through, but it's not. Security is always behind. So being knowledgeable, dealing and working with people like you, and this isn't a plug, I promise you. It's just, I get it. People working with you, I'm listening to everything you're talking about. People working with you and at least the concepts and the actions are critical at this point in time, because we don't know, and people like me probably don't even want to know, and they're probably the most susceptible.
So I want to answer Dixon's question, and I want to respond to the original question when I went on a tirade in regards to we look at security as being
this one.
It was actually in regards to when will we ever be able to stop voice cloning? And the answer is never. We're never going to be able to stop voice cloning. And I started to go on to my story there so that you would understand that this is not a fatalistic point of view. We would never stop voice cloning. Like we're never going to stop. We're never going to stop people killing people with firearms. We're never going to stop that. But that does not mean that we give up. That does not mean that we just throw our hands up in the air. This is not a fatalistic response. It's simply that we need to adopt a different mindset to recognize risk. Listen, when I go grocery shopping, right? I don't go grocery shopping worried that I'm going to get shot. I go to the grocery shopping looking around the perimeter of my body, potentially to see if there's anybody out there that is a bad actor, that has a mental health issue that might act out. Okay. I do the same thing when I go to concerts. I do the same thing when I go to restaurants and bars. I don't worry about any of these things. I'm just paying attention to my surroundings, not because I'm worried, but because I just do it because it's like automatic at this point. Like it's situational awareness. I'm paying attention to the situation that I'm in around the perimeter of my body at all times. When I'm getting phone calls, emails, and text messages, I do the same thing. Okay. When the phone rings, I'm paying attention to what's the motivation of the person on the other end of the line. So it's not that like we're ever going to stop these things, but that doesn't mean we give up. It means that we just pay attention. It means we engage in situational awareness. We be smart about our environment. Simple stuff. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're definitely pulling that message in. We've talked a lot about that message right there. And then if you take Jason here and go more directly into that, the kind of into the weeds or maybe out of the weeds of that, what's the biggest mistake organizations make after a cyber attack? We talked about that one, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, we did. And Dixon.
And go ahead. There you go.
Can AI also be used defensively against AI-driven fraud? Absolutely. The problem is that right now, you and I don't have access to consumable tools that allow us to detect AI deepfakes. We don't have tools that will let us know point blank, is this AI or not? You could spend hours on, say, on Google's Chrome web store to find plugins to detect if a video on Facebook or Instagram is real or fake, and none of those tools work. We don't have anything available to you and I right now that we can use to detect real or fake. That is a problem. And until that day comes, if it ever comes, I hope it does, and I think it will, you and I can't detect real or fake, which frustrates me because there's all kinds of videos out there that I'd like to know if they're real or fake because they're perfect. And I just know they're fake, but you can't tell if they're fake or not quite yet.
Well, and on top of that, even as the technology improves and keeps improving, for certain things, for different things, it's at a pretty good state, which it's not even near close what it's eventually going to be. You said within a decade there, yeah. But the shit, now I forgot my damn point. The movement of where that's going and learning whether it's real or not, even as that technology improves to maybe at some point, like you said, hopefully detect if this video is real or that's real and so forth, all these technologies, even as it goes along, AI still has what's called hallucinations. So it's not like it's even going to be right every time. You still need that human interaction because it has that human interaction, but needs to be guided through, in this case, AI. Do you agree with that?
I do.
That's something I've been hearing about.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that like it's just a matter of time until the technology evolves and develops to the point where consumers have the ability to detect it or not based on using tools of technology to make that detection. I do think that the bad guys are going to continue to find a workaround. However, 100%. As long as we are paying attention and we're not sharing disinformation, we're not, we're being thoughtful about the information that we're consuming and whether it's real or fake. Okay. I would like to answer Nick's question in regards to how do you protect high net worth transactions?
Absolutely, please, because I think it's really important.
Whether it's high net worth transactions, Nick, or anybody for that matter, I'm going to give you the fundamentals again, everybody, really quick. Okay. So number one, as far as how you protect any transactions, high net worth or not. Number one, password management, never use the same passcodes twice. Number two, two-factor authentication on everything. And I say everything. I mean every single account that you possess that will enable two-factor authentication, set it up. That means Google search two-factor Amazon, two-factor eBay, two-factor PayPal, and so forth. Set up two-factor authentication for everything, okay? So once you do those two things, now you're on your way. Beyond that, what's most important is making sure that your email is properly protected. That also means never using the same passcode for email as anything else. Also, two-factor authentication definitely for your email. And you will also want to consider making sure that your mobile phone account, so when it comes to high net worth individuals, your mobile phone is a big target. Our phones in general are a big target. For high net worth individuals, your mobile phone is a huge one because that's how they get access to your bank account, your crypto account, your wallet, and so forth. Okay, so make sure that your mobile phone account, Verizon, AT&T, Mint, whatever it is, that you have a different passcode for those accounts. You have two-factor authentication set up for your mobile phone account. And I would consider a different email address for your mobile phone account versus any other account, and a different email address for your bank account versus any other account. So your most critical accounts, financial accounts, should have a different email address than the same account that you use for Facebook and so forth. So because your username is often an email address, never use an email address for your most critical accounts. You might want to have like 2 or 3 different email addresses that are specific for, say, your crypto and your bank, your investments. And making sure that you have two-factor authentication and change up your passcodes and use a password manager for everything. And you should be good. You do those things as a high net worth individual or anybody, regular consumers that are average pay. You're good. You are in the top 10% already.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday. Actually, my intern, yesterday. And he was talking about, you should always set up a different email address for each thing that you're doing. He's got like 10 email addresses or something. Because again, you're breaking that up. Well, I don't know if it's 10, maybe it's not 10, but for each different thing that he's working on. In other words, he's got a show email, he's got a financial email, he's got a work email, and then those are different emails, as you were saying, kind of break those up. This is an interesting question. I mean, Daniel says here, is identity theft 2.0 harder to recover from than traditional identity theft? That's a curious question to me because I don't know enough to question the question. Is it a good question Daniel has here?
So identity theft 2.0 is generally, at least from my perspective, and that might mean something to others, something different to others. It's when your passwords are ultimately compromised and they're getting internal access to your accounts and they're compromising your two-factor authentication. Like once they get that deep, then yes, that is very difficult to survive, really. Basic identity theft, when you think about it, like people think credit card fraud is identity theft, and credit card fraud is not identity theft. Credit card fraud is credit card fraud. Just pay attention to your statements, refute the charges, you're good. Pure identity theft is when they get your social security number and they open up new lines of credit under your name without your authorization. Pure identity theft can be difficult to recover from. It really just impacts your time more than anything else. And ultimately, it impacts your credit, depending on how long it goes on for. Preventing pure identity theft, which is they get your social and open up new lines of credit under your name, can be easily rectified right now by getting a credit freeze. Just go to my website, protectnowllc.com, and search credit freeze, and you'll find exactly how to go about and freeze your credit, okay? So that's identity theft 1.0. 2.0 is when they get access to all your various accounts because they get inside.
Is that right? Do I have it right on there? Contact Robert? Is that what you
protectnowllc.com. That's me, brother. Thank you. Yes.
You bet. Yep.
And by the way, I only have until I got 4 minutes. That's it. That's all I got.
Oh, geez, dude. Okay, real quick, short answers. All right, real quick.
I got 4 minutes. Sorry.
How do you let's see, identity. Let's hit a couple just one-line answers because it's their time too. I wanted to make sure they get. John, what do you say? What simple daily habits can families? Short answers here. You're on the clock. Okay. Short answers.
One by one, recognize every time the phone rings, an email comes in or a text message. Is this real or is this fake? And communicate it with those in your life.
Next, are banks adapting quickly enough? And I was going to ask about this earlier to imposter fraud. My bank makes me run through hoops.
Listen, the good guys are winning. That's the good news. The good guys are winning, right? But that doesn't mean they're going to win the battle. They're winning the fight. That means that the lights are on, the critical infrastructures are in order. The banks are adapting quickly. They are.
Good guys are winning. Thanks, Faz. Jeffrey, how do you balance trust? This is a fast fire and verification without slowing down business.
I think that you need to get your employees on board in regards to risk management effectively beyond phishing simulation training. You got to properly train them making all security personal. They will do their jobs regarding security much more effectively, and they won't cog the wheel.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it. I want you to read this one here.
Great show.
Out
Great
loud.
video. Great show. Great video. Learning so much already. Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
All right. And then why don't you go ahead and do the same thing?
While
Read
that
it out
example of
loud.
wire fraud is scary, great insights. There's so much craziness going on out there, Dixon. Listen, I tell everybody, don't worry about this stuff. Just do something about it. And listen, I'm online. Like, you guys can find all kinds of resources beyond me. Check me on LinkedIn. I'm always putting something out every couple of weeks. Check out my website. If you are a company that actually brings in, security awareness trainers, I would love that. Like, I'm here for you. This is what I do. I talk to my audiences the same way I talk to my girls, which they think I'm nuts, but that's fine. We engage in a dialogue. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be me and you together, me and 500 people together, like solving this problem. There is a problem to be solved. We can correct the human blind spot by becoming the strategic human firewall.
All right, I got two more. I want to get them in here. Faz had another comment. Read this out loud. Why don't you hit this big one, big boy?
Thank you, Faz. This might be one of the most important cybersecurity talks this year. Thank you, sir.
All right, and then just to wrap it up, and then why don't you give a final comment to your thousands and thousands of friends here, or I should say fans here. What is Nikolai Nishla
from South Africa? Hey, buddy. Yeah, nice to meet you.
We had another person about 2 shows ago that was happened to come across us from not Great Britain. That was a different one from Kiwi State, the Kiwis, whatever the Kiwis.
New Zealand.
New Zealand, yes, thank you. He said, hi from New Zealand. So last comment before you give a big wave, I'll throw you in the green room. If I can catch up to you, love to talk to you backstage, but if you got to go, you got to go. Final thoughts, what do you want to leave your thousands and thousands of cheering fans with? And then I'll throw you in the back room and I'll close her down and put a bow on it.
You people have exhausted me. I love you. Listen, we got we're in this together. And this is true. I tell everybody in my life, that everybody in my presentations, stay in touch. Like reach out to me. Like, I'm here for you. We are literally in this together. I can't do this without you. I'm here for you. And if you need me, I'm here for you. Reach out to me. Like, that's it. Like, I'm here for you. Plain and simple.
All right, beautiful, man. Well, give everybody a big wave. I'll throw you in the green room. Keep away from the green peanuts. We love you. And hopefully I'll talk to you off stage. Otherwise, let's keep in touch and we'll hook up later.
Peace out.
Beautiful. Oh, man, he's right. I'm exhausted. I mean, that was, it is right at 2 hours right now. Dude, Robert, we hit 2 hours. Big audience, loving what you're talking about. And so I just want to tell everybody as we kind of close this down, if today's conversation did anything, I hope it shifted assumption. And we talked a lot about, kind of leaned on that a little bit right towards the middle half. That cybersecurity is not a technology issue. It's a human one. What Robert laid out today wasn't fear, it was clarity. Not paranoia, but responsibility. Because in a world of AI generated voices, deep state video, impersonation and looks that impersonation that looks flawless on the surface, the real question isn't, are we protected? It's, are we trained to think? Just like he was saying. Are we conditioned to pause? Are we, or do we recognize manipulation when it feels urgent, familiar, or authoritative? That's the strategic human firewall, as we talked about, in action. And this is exactly why conversations like this matter, why we don't rush them, we don't sanitize them or oversimplify them. If this episode resonated with you, here are two ways you can directly support this work. First, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Rod Duff 1939. That subscription helps this show reach leaders, educators, and families who don't yet know they're exposed. Second, subscribe to our Substack, where we publish 3 times a week. That's where these conversations continue deeper, in deeper context, written insight, and long-form thinking. You won't find them anywhere else. You'll find my weekly column in the Mangum Star News, where we keep connecting national conversations back to local responsibility, because culture is rebuilt from the ground up. And finally, share this episode, okay? Not because it was interesting, I hope it was, but because it was necessary. Robert Siciliano didn't just give us information today, he gave us a lens. And once you see the human blind spot, you can't unsee it. Thank you for spending an hour with us. Well, no, thank you for spending 2 hours with us. And thank you to our partners and sponsors who believe in that informed communities. They believe in the communities being informed. And we'll see you next time right here on Insights and Straight Talk. And I'm Rod Duff. I'm your host. With that, I'm out of here.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Security.